startup is like pushing a ball up a hill, where in the beginning the ball isn't really moving, but you just push it and push, and you finally start to get it rolling.
Because we have reached at the top of the hill now, the ball is starting to roll. That phase is completely different than starting.
If anybody has a little bit of computer science and math background, maybe at a college level, you can watch his videos and follow along and actually build a GPT model.
It's a criminal waste of time for developers not to use bytecode.
Claude owns the model, and this has been a topic of some controversy. The next level of this is like GitHub Copilot or Cursor's Tab Complete, which I personally really like. So when I'm thinking of how do I implement this, what line of code do I write, when you see a solution and it kind of works, you accept it. But the problem is it may not be the optimal one. I really recommend that form of like vibe coding or AI assisted coding where it makes changes. That's the difference. A vibe coder won't think.
Exactly.
They just prompt, as in like an issue comes up, hey, this issue came up, fix it, or add this feature. They don't think, how would I implement it? Is this even necessary? And I grow faster than I grew the year before. So the rate at which I'm increasing itself is increasing, which I think is good. It's hard to sustain. With new learners, there's not much in our heads, so new things settle in very easily.
So which leads me to the next question. What happened after YC? I mean, I have my own journey. I can tell that story from a GenX perspective. I want to hear your take on that. What happened after YC?
Yeah, at the end of YC, we get into fundraising. The whole point is, so as you mentioned, the startup model, we raise money and we use that to support our hiring process, support growth, and support the startup as it tries to get to the next stage of fundraising. And fundraising was a very interesting process for us because we also actually ran into that crossroads where we were like, okay, do we fundraise? Do we not? Do we want to run this very lean, very tight, keep hiring low and just not raise any additional funding? Or do we raise around and really have this there? And we actually, it wasn't very clear for us because we were pretty much profitable. And we talked to YC about it. And their advice was, in your goal as a startup is to find product market fit or PMF. What that means to anyone who's new to this is a startup is like pushing a ball up a hill, where in the beginning the ball isn't really moving, but you just push it and push, and you finally start to get it rolling. But then the hill ramps up. You have to put more and more effort over and over again. Every single day, every new user, you're just begging them to come use your product. You're advertising to them. You're spending a lot of money to acquire people, to grow, to add new features. It's all a big effort until you cross the peak of the hill, which is that product market fit moment. At that point, you push the ball and it starts rolling. It starts rolling faster than you can run. And that product market fit moment, once that happens, you're actually chasing the ball. People are signing for your product faster than you can support them. Your servers are on fire. Your costs are just exploding. Everything is just not working. When OpenAI releases a new model, their servers just get completely broken for like a few days. They have to roll it out slowly because they are a post-product market fit product. Apple, for example, when they release new products or building new things, there's sometimes supply chain issues and they have to delay things. These are examples of companies where people are actually begging to use the product. They just need to manufacture the thing as fast as they can, and people are just ripping it out of their hands. So every company has that moment at some time if you live long enough. If your startup dies, so be it. But at some point you'll have that moment where people are ripping the product out of your hands faster than you can make it. And when that moment comes, they said, you need funding. If that moment comes and you say, oh, I don't have enough money, I need to raise funds, it's not going to happen in time. You're going to miss it. So that was really the moment where we like, what, that makes sense. We're going to raise about $2 million. We're going to have this here. We're going to continue running the company in a lean way. AI really enables running your company with a limited number of employees and running it very efficiently. But once that moment comes where we have that breakthrough moment, once we build the right thing, solve exactly the right problem, and it just looks like a no-brainer, it's going to explode, and you need capital to really take advantage of that moment.
Yeah. So you mentioned about the hill. You're pushing the ball up the hill. That's a really good analogy for the hard things that you are going to experience in the future. And that is actually what where we are right now, because we have reached at the top of the hill now. The ball is starting to roll. That phase is completely different than starting. Right now, everything is priority one. You're facing customer issues. Your system is failing at one place, but it is working for all the others, and you have hiring problems. You cannot find people to help you, because in any startup founder's journey, this is actually for everyone. Any startup founder's journey, the first 20 hires that you do is based on the founder's brand. They are convinced that this about you, they have read about you, they know you personally, so they come to you. Any hires after the first 20 has nothing to do with the founder. They are employees. They want to work. They put really hard work, but they're not completely committed to the company and its vision. So that's when you find new problems altogether. So we are at that stage, and I hope some of Techstars or any accelerators would have warned me about it. It's so right now we are 65 member team, and it's the operational challenges is actually really, really, really challenging at this point. And you just mentioned about the lean way of building the company, right? And you slightly mentioned AI in it, and so you are an AI native generation, right? So your thinking process fits into that AI framework. AI is something that we had to learn.
It's new.
It's very new. Even I had to go back and refresh my knowledge in linear algebra to understand some of the concepts of AI. But you just walked into AI soon after you graduated, right? So I want to understand your process in coding. People say it's vibe coding. That's actually a funny way to call the AI a vibe coder. It's not actually the right name. It has an expansion to it. It's actually an acronym for something. I don't remember.
Vibe coding is a term coined by Andrej Karpathy, who is one of the creators of, I believe, GPT-4 at OpenAI and the head of AI at Tesla. Brilliant man, one of the leaders in the AI space, and he actually has a lot of educational content on YouTube. If anybody has a little bit of computer science and math background, maybe at a college level, you can watch his videos and follow along and actually build a GPT model that works on your computer and code it up yourself. So I recommend anybody who's interested in AI, go check that out. But he mentioned that when he's coding with AI, he's a very rigorous person, very deeply technical, incredibly talented. But he says sometimes when he's working on a side project, there becomes a moment where he starts to go faster and faster with the AI. The AI lets him code faster than he ever could as a human. It can write lines of code instantly. It can push out features very quickly. And there becomes a point, a certain threshold of speed that you crossed, where you can no longer look at every single line of code and look at every single statement it's making and check it yourself, which is probably the more rigorous thing to do and probably the more one I'd recommend. But there becomes a point where you just ask it to push out features and you start to ignore the actual implementation. You start to ignore the long-term effects of the code it's producing. You start to ignore the inefficiencies or the architectural flaws, and you just look at the resulting product and the vibes of it. You just look at the code and say, oh, there's a good vibe to the code it's written. I don't have to check everything. It looks like it's right. Okay, cool. I'll approve it. I'll just push it. So it's a rate of development that's so quick that you can't even read it all. You just look at the vibe of the code and you just say, okay, this is good, or just change it. Nowadays, it's been the meaning has changed a little bit, where it's AI first coding, where you're just saying, okay, build this feature, and you don't even look at the code. You just accept it, and you say, fix this issue. So instead of looking at the code, you actually have it create some program, look at the output, and if it's broken, you say, okay, just fix it. But you don't actually know what's happening under the hood. So eventually the code looks like spaghetti and it's all broken and stuff, and in the long term it doesn't really work. But as AI models become more and more powerful, you get like no code tools that you can give tasks to. You can say, build out this entire feature, or completely migrate my entire code base to TypeScript or Python or something. Some ridiculously large changes, and just have the AI figure it out.
Okay. Yeah. So recently, the KPS did a podcast on me, and I told in the podcast, it's a criminal waste of time for developers not to use vibe coding. And people were livid. The comment box was lit. I got quite a lot of slack for saying that. But
saying what?
Saying that it's a criminal waste if you are not using vibe coding in your in your work.
If you're not using vibe coding. Interesting. Who said that?
I said that in KPS, and immediately, I was on air. Like people went crazy.
There is merit in what you said, though.
Yeah. So, the context in which I said that is, for me, vibe coding solved one important problem, which is discoverability. So, earlier, let's say, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we were implementing our first, I used to work in a company which built Bluetooth stack. This is in 1999. And 98. So the Bluetooth special interest group was just formed. The first Bluetooth chip was released by a company called CSR, and the idea is to develop a stack as a Linux kernel module, a driver. So we were trying to build it, but we have to read this 200, 300 pages of Bluetooth specification to understand what we are doing, and most of the time we would run into problems, we will get stuck, and we were doing I'm not sure we were actually doing anything, and because we were stuck all the time, and we would ask in news groups, so it takes months for a feature to launch. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was implementing a scene-changing algorithm, and I read a paper, research paper. I dumped it into the Claude code and asked Claude to come up with a solution. And it did. So it solved that discoverable problem. What I think is not all vibe coding tools are the same. So Cursor, for example, I used to write in Cursor, but Cursor, intervenes in your workflow. If you try to write a code by yourself, Cursor fills it up for you, and I hate it. You
didn't like that?
No. So now that I have Claude Code, which is a CLI tool, it stays away from your editor. It sits in your CLI. And you are interacting with the CLI basically. So and you can actually extend Claude also. You can actually build tools through MCP servers which Claude can use,
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, Claude uses grep
Yeah.
for file comparison and file searches and things like that. Not file comparison, file searches. But there is a better grep, rib grep.
Then you can replace it.
Yeah, I can replace it.
Yeah.
Then I use NeoVim as my editor. So I can use LazyJit to push my code in. So there is a lot of extensions that you can do to Claude, which completely changed my coding workflow. Now I can actually, keep all my architecture and everything safe. I can just focus on one part of the code.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm fixing a bug.
Yeah.
I isolate and find where the bug is. Then I ask Claude, okay, I think there is a problem right here. Can you, confirm if there is a problem? And if there is a problem, can you suggest some changes? And the Claude always does that, but I don't get that kind of control in Cursor or Replit or Lovable or any other tools. Claude actually changes it completely. One of the features of Claude is that you can spawn multiple agents.
Yeah.
So you can.
Cursor actually has background agents.
Yeah, that's a single agent.
I think you do multiple.
You can do multiple?
I think so.
Yeah, but you can set up these agents for different users. Okay.
Yeah.
One agent does the coding and the other agent does the.
I do like Claude Code.
Yeah.
I think the biggest, because Cursor, as tools like Codex, Claude Code, I think Klein too, GLM, a lot of these vibe coding tools, which are really just an agent going in and performing changes and submitting a pull request that you can then approve. The power of that is you can have multiple, essentially junior programmers
that's
performing actions that you then approve.
Yeah.
So similar to the workflow we have at Friday actually for emails.
Yeah.
But the power is you can now have multiple people tackling multiple issues independently in different parts of the code base. And Cursor is probably going to add these features in. But I think the biggest thing they can't compete with,
they don't have languages.
What is it?
They don't have their own models.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Claude owns the model.
Oh, yeah.
And, this has been a topic of some controversy, but the benefit is Claude can really afford to subsidize the pricing.
Yeah.
They can let the model really go wild. And people I know have been using billions and billions of tokens on Claude Code, just having... I saw one person use I think 50 billion tokens in a coding session, which is ridiculous. If anybody doesn't know, it's so expensive. But the cool thing is, because Claude owns all of its models, it can build models specifically for this task. It has a lot of data, and it can really subsidize the costs. So they can really outcompete Cursor when it just comes to model performance and the model cost. But when it comes to vibe coding, I think there's different levels of AI involvement in your programming. And I think it's important to think about each one. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, debating this. At Y Combinator, we're very accepting of changes, very forward thinking. So when new things come out, everybody loves to try it. And so everybody's using different tools. They say, oh, Claude Code is better, GPT is better, Codex is better. Oh, I just use default GitHub Copilot or whatever. So you hear so many different opinions. And what I ended up formulating is that there's a few levels. The first level is your basic programming, where you're in a IDE or code editor, and you just have your basic autocompletes. That's what we had pre-AI. The next level of this is GitHub Copilot or Cursor's tab complete, which I personally really like. Maybe it's not so much your style. And sometimes I do see that problem where sometimes I want to make the changes myself, but it suggests changes. And the problem is it actually biases your thinking.
Yes.
So because I'm not as fast as the AI when it comes to coming up with a solution, So when I'm thinking of how do I implement this, what line of code do I write? When you see a solution and it kind of works, you accept it. But the problem is it may not be the optimal one. Whereas if you didn't see any suggestion, you have no bias and your mind wanders a little bit and you come up with the optimal solution. So sometimes I turn off the tab completes, but if I know exactly how I want to implement something, I really think cursor is magical for that, where I put my cursor on a line and it fills in exactly what I want, and I know how the line of code is going to be.
Okay.
So when I'm typing out code, it's much, much faster.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, level 2, where you're coding and it, instead of filling in words or variables, it fills in entire lines or code blocks. I think that's great. The next level you have is like your assistant on the side. You have a chat, which we're adding to Gmail for emails as well. I'm very inspired by Cursor and a lot of these vibe coding tools because I feel AI has, I wouldn't say solved, but seriously impacted the coding industry. It for the better, I think. It's really they've performed a lot of innovations. There's a lot of focus on coding agents and coding models. And so the new interfaces for interacting with AI are, I think, the most developed in the programming space.
Yeah.
But we can all learn from how they're implemented and bring them into other places. My enter for emails is directly inspired from Cursor's tab completions, where again, you're not writing the line of code, but you know what you want and you just approve it. Yeah. In the same way, you're not writing the email, but you see, okay, this is exactly the email I'd write. So you just press enter, it performs the action. Yeah. Now that you have a chat, it's kind of like prompting Claude code, but it's just maybe smaller changes. This is, I think, the biggest difference between a vibe coder and someone I think who is a little bit more disciplined. Yeah. The biggest difference is you can prompt it, okay, make this change. Now you can say, okay, add this new feature, and it'll just go and make changes in like 10 different files. But the way I prefer working, and I think is actually the fastest, is you don't use the AI for a bit. I spend like 95% of my time thinking because AI makes coding so fast. Right. I look at a feature, I know exactly how I want to implement it, how I want to change it, and I know what I want to write. But I may not know exactly the code I want to implement. So I say, in here, add a loop that does this, or write a function that you then call that performs this action. It's very specific, very detailed, very limited. And I only let it change 1 or 2 files at a time. So as a result, the code gets written and I can look at each line of code. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference. When I we hired some interns or employees, when I work with other people and they make changes in the code base, I think the thing that really defines the talented people is I can point to a change that they made and they know exactly how it works. They know why it's working. They know why it's there. But when someone vibe codes it, I can tell immediately because I'll ask, why did you add this line of code? And they go, wait, I actually don't know. I actually just asked Cursor to just add that feature for me. And that's bad. Yeah. Because that builds up over time. It may not, it's a slippery slope. It's a little bit dangerous because you start to make these changes and it works and it's faster and your code base gets developed and your product grows. But over time, as you understand less and less of the code base, if you don't really know what each line of code is doing, you start to lose grip on the code base. And there becomes a point where it's so large and so unwieldy that you can't even make changes yourself anymore because you don't understand it. Yeah. It's like operating in a foreign code base that you've never seen before. And if you ask Claude or Cursor or whatever model you want to solve the problem and it fails, you're screwed. Yeah. You really have to rewrite everything. And it takes longer than if you just made disciplined, small, atomic changes yourself. Yeah. And as a result, I really recommend that form of like vibe coding or AI assisted coding where it makes changes, but you never approve anything that you wouldn't have written yourself. Yeah. You know exactly what it does. Yes. You know how it's implemented. Right.
So that's an important point.
It's not vibe coding.
Yeah, it's not vibe coding. So that's why I said the name vibe coding is completely wrong.
It's changed.
It has changed.
Because what you're mentioning is what Andre Kapati initially said, where like he's making changes and he kind of looks at the code and he sees, okay, this looks right, and he approves it. He's still looking at it. Yeah. But nowadays, vibe coding is you put in a prompt and you just get a product. You don't even care how it's implemented.
Yeah. So most people thinks that's how everyone vibe codes.
Yeah.
It's not.
And it's slower.
Yeah, you made a really important point here where you said you think before you write, right? So that's where the software engineers spend most of their time.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
A vibe coder won't think.
Yeah, exactly.
They just prompt, as in like an issue comes up, hey, this issue came up, fix it, or add this feature. They don't think, how would I implement it? Is this even necessary? What should it look like? Before I even put in a prompt, I say, okay, what would a correct solution actually look like?
Yeah.
And 3 things happen. Either 1, it matches up perfectly, and I'm like, okay, good. 2, it's wrong, and I know it's wrong, so I say, okay, this is the issue, here's how you fix it. Or 3, it suggests something that's different than actually what I expected. Then I spend a little bit more time exploring, okay, why is this right? Is this better? Is this worse? Is my solution good? Is the AI solution good? I think you can really benefit from that.
Yeah. So, I have been coding for last 30 years,
Yeah.
right? So you have your guardrails already in your head. So for me, I make very pointed changes, okay? And I can immediately say, I mean, irrespective of the languages that I use, I can immediately see if there is a nested for loop, then I know it's bad. No, it's a gut instincts that you have developed.
Yeah.
So I know it's not, ON.
It comes from experience.
Yeah. So I ask AI to change that, Hey, this is a crappy code, go change it. So I have my own guardrails, and people doesn't know that's how software engineers think, because they think software engineers write code, new code all the time.
Yeah.
I think maybe 5% of the time is spent on writing
Completely
new code.
agree. Yeah.
All other time, I'm either refactoring my code or fixing a bug.
Which is the issue with vibe coding.
Yeah. Fixing a bug, one of the important, I think I just spoke about it. When I find a bug somewhere,
Yeah.
then you have to set multiple breakpoints. You need to analyze all the stack trace. But I can actually do all those things with Claude and ask him pointed question. Okay, is this right? Is this wrong? And you derive at a point where you think, okay, the fix that I'm going to fix this bug is valid. So I have an assistant to ask questions and get answers.
I think it's great too.
So that is how you set your own guardrails, vibe coding. But it's, giving a prompt and getting a product is not what vibe coding really means. It is
because you shift that balance. One thing I liked is that you said you acknowledge that only 5 to 10% of the time you're actually writing code.
Yes.
Whereas when you're vibe coding, it's 100% of the time.
Correct.
And even the edits are just new code being generated. Sometimes you just erase big code blocks and have it regenerated, which is interesting. But if you say let's not even say 5%, let's say 10% of the time you're writing new code, and that new code writing is 1,000,000 times faster, but editing code is 20% slower, you're now as 92% as efficient as you were if you just did it by hand.
Yeah.
So you're slower, despite one being 1,000,000 times faster and one being like 20% slower. The biggest thing that needs to be considered is, are you making this harder for yourself or the AI to edit in the future? Because the AI doesn't write code that the AI knows how to edit. That's the biggest issue.
Right.
I think it'll be solved at some point in the future.
We talked about it before. Who's going to be the winner in this race, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of go to a point to that you said, Anthropic has their own models. So obviously Anthropic is going to be the winner, right?
Maybe.
I don't know.
OpenAI is investing a lot.
Yeah. So, but I think whoever solves this enterprise problem is the one who is going to be the winner. They want, enterprise doesn't want to send their code out into a cloud elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? Because of compliance reason.
Yeah.
I think that whoever solves that would be the winner. I think.
Yeah. Interestingly, Apple is making some progress there. I like Apple as a company. I don't think they've embraced AI as much as I would have liked them to. But the thing that I think is interesting is that they've positioned themselves in a unique perspective.
Okay.
Where most of the companies are just in an arms race.
Yeah.
They're just trying to build the biggest, most capable, most performant models, and that works. You know, even XAI has released Grok code, which is performing pretty well. It's new, but I've seen that there's actually really big adoption.
Okay.
Whereas Apple is trying to innovate in the inference architecture space, like their private cloud. I forget the word they use, but I think it's like private cloud compute, where you have an anonymous protocol for sending information to LLMs to process that's in an anonymized way.
Okay.
I think because they're also building hardware as well,
Okay.
I feel like they're in a unique situation. If they perform well, they can really win here, where they can. I hope to see them compete even with Nvidia.
Microsoft.
Yeah, to focus on the hardware game.
Oh,
because
hardware game. Okay.
because Google is the only company in the world that builds their own chips, that builds their own AI models, that has their own cloud infrastructure, that have their own scientists dedicated to pretty much every single spot. They have their own they have their own architecture, they have their own software too. So like OpenAI, they have their models, they have a platform, but they don't have the chips.
Yeah.
Nvidia has the chips, they have an LLM, but no one ever uses it. Microsoft is kind of doing well in those areas, but again, their compute is not specifically designed. Gemini is so fast because the specific chips that Google builds is designed for Gemini to run on.
Okay.
Google actually has released some open source models, but my theory, and others agree, is probably that the architecture is completely different.
Yeah.
In that Gemini is specifically designed to run really well on Google chips. So I'm bullish on them because they're the first company to really verticalize the entire AI stack and own it all.
Okay.
Different companies are trying to do it. I think knowing Elon Musk, that's probably his goal too.
Okay.
But I want to see Apple try to make some plays, at least in the hardware space, because I think that is, as models become commoditized, they might be in a very good position to have some sort of protocol or some sort of way that enterprises use AI in a safe and secure way that actually they're comfortable with.
Oh, that's a really good take. Yeah. What's an advice as a Gen Z founder that you can give to a Gen X founder? You know, I know a lot of my friends, probably around my age group, is trying to start something at this point.
Yeah.
So what's your advice to a Gen X?
This is actually advice towards both Gen Z and Gen X. I would say some advice I'd give to Gen Z as we grow older is that a trend that I notice a lot in STEM fields is that when you're in college, when you're in school, you grow at a really rapid pace. There have been my last few years of college were some of the most formative years of my life, and I feel like every year I grow, and I grow faster than I grew the year before. So the rate at which I'm increasing itself is increasing, which I think is good. It's hard to sustain, but college environments are powerful because they put you in a place where you're surrounded by so many people, so many different ideas, so many different ways of thinking. Even YC was like that. That was one of my favorite things. YC was different than Stanford in that they're all weird, but they're weird in the same way that I'm weird. Like, none of them drink, they don't smoke, they don't party. They like to stay inside and work on coding and just geek out about that stuff. So they're very similar to me in that regard. But they're very different in the way that they think about things. Everybody uses different banking software. Everybody uses different programming software. Everyone has different philosophies on hiring. And when you're in a chat with all these people, you're bombarded with so many different ways of thinking that helps you grow, because you can listen to all these and you can learn and you could adopt one, and that's how you grow as a person. But my advice to Gen Z founders is, as they get older and as they leave college, you start to fall into a rhythm of you have a routine. You go to work, you come home, you do the same things. There starts to be less randomness in your day and more structure. And with that structure, I think starts to become a little bit of stagnation, as in you're surrounded by the same people all the time. You're surrounded with the same ideas. Most of your friends are friends from work. And so adopting new ideas becomes harder.
Yeah.
You have to put in a lot of effort to seek out and find new ideas. In fact, I used to work in consumer social.
Yeah.
And the biggest way to get a temperature check on what culture is going to be like in the future is to talk to high school seniors.
Yeah.
They are probably the most in tune with the cultural vibe of society.
Yeah.
Like, they know what's cool, what's happening, what's going to be going on in the future. And I felt that as I've gone through college and gotten older, I'm more and more removed. I know less and less what's happening.
Yeah.
And I see that simply gets magnified over time. But some of the most successful Gen X influences in my life that I know, that I really look up to, are people who reject that idea of structure. They spend a lot of time throwing away that experience, because the biggest thing you have over me is you know more. You've been through so many more things. You have so much experience. And experience is very valuable if you're willing to learn, which you have. But if you take that experience and you let it define you or define the decisions you make, and you don't change, it actually holds you back because you become obsolete.
Right.
With new learners, there's not much in our heads, so new things settle in very easily. But as you learn more things, you always have to be open to completely abandoning your understanding and adopting new things. And so based on that, I would ask you, what advice do you have as a Gen X founder to the Gen Z audience?
So, this is not one targeted to Gen Z. Anybody can take this advice. But I've seen my kids, they are probably, my eldest one is your age, little younger, and I have a girl in the high school too. So, to be an entrepreneur, one of the important virtue that you need to have, a skill that you need to develop, is being patient. So when you are starting off, one, you don't know what you are doing. You have an idea, but it is completely vague and hazy, and you have no direct path to implement it. But the path opens up eventually, but you have to be patient. The second thing is, your customers, the first customers that you find, they don't know what they want actually.
Yeah.
Okay. And for you to understand what they actually want takes time.
I agree.
So you have to be patient in that sense too. And the third one probably is your team. The team doesn't understand what you are saying, because your idea itself is hazy and vague. So you're trying to explain to them something you are not convinced about. So you have to be patient with your team as well. And the last one is your spouses. They don't know what they are doing. If you have a girlfriend or a wife, they don't know what you are doing, and you can't really explain to them what you actually are doing.
Yeah.
So there would be a lot of friction. So you have to be patient with them too. So if you learn these virtues, and it's actually a skill, it's not a virtue, it's actually a skill. If you develop this skill, you have a better chance of success.
I love that. And I feel like I learned that too as I was going through YC. YC's motto is make something people want.
Yeah.
And part of that involves really empathizing with your users, with the people who use your product. But I really like that you've expanded that to the team, your family members, your relationships as well, who don't really understand what's going on. And you have to have some sort of patience and put yourself in their shoes. In fact, when I'm hiring people, that's the number one skill I look for. Do you have an ability to see the world from another person's perspective?
Yeah.
Because if as an engineer you can do that, you'll be a great designer.
Yeah.
You can build software and understand how someone's going to use it, or understand not how someone's going to use it, but in fact the points of friction they'll run into. I think that when I see that trait in someone new, I try to bring them on my team as fast as possible. When I can see that they understand how someone who is not technical, or maybe new to technology, or someone older who's less comfortable with technology, or someone who is from a completely different intellectual space, is going to understand and interact with something that they create. So being able to understand that is so powerful.
So that's a wrap, I think. I should find more people to do this. I learned a lot from this conversation, and
thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone. Thanks.
All
right, thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.